In 1994, Tom Howder was a newlywed. He was also an investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board. On September 8th, one of his co-workers asked if he would take his on-call shift that day. Just after 7 o'clock that night, he got the call that U.S. Air Flight 427 crashed just outside of Pittsburgh. Since he was on call, he would be the investigator in charge. While he scrambled to organize a flight to Pittsburgh, he turned on the news coverage.
Now we're going to talk with David Shipley, who is a U.S. Air spokesman.
Howder knew it would indeed take some time, but he didn't know he was just beginning what would be the longest plane crash investigation in U.S. history and would put a strain on his new marriage. Howder arrived in Pittsburgh first thing in the morning and walked through the fog, still laying low on that hillside.
We started encountering pieces of wreckage in the trees. Not just aircraft wreckage, we saw some body parts in the trees too. And then as we got closer to the wreckage, there was no airplane left. There was just pieces of metal all over the place. The thing about it was
we met up with Howder, now retired, in Savannah, Georgia, for an exclusive interview.
That's me there, a lot younger.
He unpacked the box holding 30-year-old memories and recalled for us his investigation that would eventually change the airline industry. How in the world did you handle walking through that crash scene?
I focused on solve the problem, try to stay out of the tragedy that just occurred. If I try to get involved or even partake in kind of the tragedy that happened, I can't do this job. Yes, you can walk through the accident scene and there's clearly, you can see fragments of people's lives. You know, shoes, briefcases, watches, miscellaneous pieces of someone's life. Then occasionally you can see body parts too. But as terrible as that is, our concern of being at the NTSB and to be investigators, we want to prevent the next one. This just happened. I want to make sure it doesn't happen again. That would be the real tragedy.
In a painstakingly slow process, his team pieced together fragments of the plane, hoping to find something that would help solve the mystery of what brought down the 737. It must have been so stressful for you.
It kept me going, and so it was, you know, basically a 16-hour day for 3 weeks there, trying to put all this together and trying to figure out where do we go next.
This is rarely seen video from his personal collection of the flight test he designed to test out one theory. He wanted to see if the wake vortex created from a nearby Delta 727 may have caused Flight 427 to go out of control. At the FAA Test Center in Atlantic City, he designed a test to be done mid-flight. He put smoke generators on the wings of a lead plane so he could easily follow the wake vortex. Howder was on the plane that followed and flew through that wake from every angle and with different pilots to test out what would happen.
And basically we found that the wake vortice wasn't a big deal. You could always control the airplane. Basically, the airplane get into the vortice, get tossed out, and you immediately get control again.
This result did not surprise him, but now it was back to the drawing board as the pressure was mounting.
We're getting frustrated. You know, we're getting a lot of pushback. We've got the whole world telling us we don't know what we're doing. We've got us concerned. We got to find out what's causing this.
And in the meantime, planes are still in the sky.
In the meantime, planes are still in the sky.
Howder knew all signs still pointed to the rudder, and he had to figure out what went wrong.
And also this one at the same time.
He demonstrated a dual servo valve actuator, exactly like the one that guided Flight 427. This is the tiny instrument that moves the giant rudder to steer the plane. The inner valve is the primary one, and the design allows for the outer valve to take over if the inner one jams.
This is the dual concentric servo valve from a 737 rudder power control unit. And when the pilots move the rudder pedals, which go back and forth about 4 inches each way, it goes through a whole bunch of motion. It finally gets to this little guy.
As it slides, according to the pilot's foot pedals, these tiny holes direct the flow of pressurized hydraulic fluid that moves the rudder.
It moves this back and forth just a teeny little bit. I mean, that's a huge amount of travel, actually.
Just that tiny amount?
Just that tiny amount.
At this point, the investigation had dragged on for more than 2 years. Howder set up a thermal shock test. He used an extremely cold actuator valve and extremely hot hydraulic fluid to see if he could get the valve to jam. It passed several tests, but finally it did jam. That still didn't explain exactly why it crashed. As Boeing's engineers examined the test results, one engineer found something shocking. As soon as the outer actuator valve locked up, the hydraulic fluid was directed into the wrong ports, and that reversed the direction. This meant when a pilot did a routine maneuver, stepping on those foot pedals to correct a roll caused by a wake from another plane, the outer servo valve could get stuck the tiniest bit off, less than the width of a dime, sending the hydraulic fluid through the wrong holes and cause the rudder to work in reverse. So you're saying less than a thickness of a dime is what caused this crash?
Actually, it's less than that. If the thickness of the dime is 100%, 10% of that is what causes the accident. That's how teeny this little motion was, what that little jam was. Can I tell you what jammed it? Don't know. Could be lots of particles. There's dirt and junk in the system. But I do know that if you take the secondary valve and pull it off 10, 15% or so, and the pilot taps on the rudder pedal fast, the rudder reverse operation. And once we knew that, we could duplicate this every time. The Boeing engineers and flight test pilots were shocked once we started doing it. We could go out to an airplane, we could duplicate this, and as long as your foot was on that rudder pedal, it was going to reverse operation.
Updated training for pilots to handle the situation was immediate. They were taught to take their foot off the pedals and the plane would correct itself. Still, though, Boeing was not convinced and began its own investigation.
And they redid all of our tests, everything we did, including the wake vortex flight test, the whole 9 yards. And
They were determined to prove you wrong.
Basically, yes. And so they had this test going, and they were trying to come up with something else. Well, the great thing about the 737 evaluation team, they came to the same conclusion we did.
Boeing eventually agreed to redesign the servo valve so this would never happen again. Eventually, all the 737s were corrected. Looking back, do you ever think about the number of lives that were saved because of your discovery?
It's hard to say. We don't know. Could more have happened? Probably.
30 years later, and he and his wife Tricia reflect on their experience that dominated the first few years of their marriage. He can now think more about those haunting questions from the victims' family members that he had to ignore back then to focus on the facts of the investigation.
People would come up to me, why this airplane? Why my family member? I can tell you with that particular servo valve, it was a matter of time in the right circumstance for it to reverse operation. Why it didn't do it before? Don't know. It took the right particle to jam at the right time. Why that flight? Why that time? Can't put together.
Next on Chronicle.
It's something you always think about, especially if you witness it. You never forget that.
A night on a soccer field turns terrifying.
My dad said if that was an airplane crash, a lot of people just died, so you need to start praying.
The people who were there sharing their stories for the first time, 30 years after the crash of Flight 427.
It's one of those events that I'll never forget as long as I live.
What they saw and felt on that September night that changed this community forever.